What's up, Airsoft Nation? Thank you so much for your amazing feedback on the new Nimrod motor line. We saw your comments and we saw your engagement on social media. That's just amazing. We would have never expected that you guys are gonna jump on this as much as you did. So obviously we're taking care of you guys now with some more answers in the Umbrella studio, not in the Nimrod studio this time. So follow me. All right, guys, I'm here with Sergey from Nimrod. Thank you very much for coming out, my dude.
Thank you for the opportunity to show the guys what's about this motor.
Absolutely. You're the one that designed it. You went out to the factories. You did multiple iterations to get the most out of this. How was the journey for you?
Yeah, we had a very long development process over multiple months where we tested various combinations of parts, electronic parts as hard materials, so which pinion gear, all that stuff, and we came up with this final product, which we think is one of the best or the best brushless motor on the market.
Right, and I guess we shall find out. Here at Umbrella, we don't take things for granted just because the manufacturer says it's the way that they say it is. So we're going to answer all your questions and find out what's good and what's bad. Is there anything bad? All right, first things first, let's look at the technical details so we all know what we're talking about before we go diving deep into some of the more specific questions. So maybe you can give us an overview, length, power, voltage, all the things that we need to know about materials. Give us a rundown.
We decided to make one motor in two lengths to give you the chance to switch the RPM if you need it and don't have to buy like a second version or a third version of your motor you need.
Right. I mean, obviously it's a bit more expensive for you to get one, but you're basically getting two.
That's right, yeah.
Right. So whenever you're on the field, you can switch like right away. But I think what's more important than this even is the build quality of the whole thing. And the fact that the pinion actually works, that's what's important, I think.
That's right. Come here, guys, we will show you. We decided to go with a D-shaped pinion gear for better force translation. We did design the motor shaft or the shaft guide inside the motor as tight as possible to ensure a perfect bevel to pinion gear fit.
Right, so it doesn't move, right? I mean, that's the point of this. If you're tuning your gun, you're putting this in there, and you're trying to get the perfect match and you're hearing screeching sounds and you think that your gun is dying, and then you adjust it and it still doesn't work properly, it's probably because something is moving.
Most of the time it's because something is moving. Like we have a stock motor here from a random brand we picked out, and there you can clearly see that the pinion gear is moving slightly in front and reverse direction.
Right. So whenever you're building something that is powerful, obviously, you want to make sure that everything mashes properly and that you have the right height.
It's basically always going down to the minimum tolerances for a perfect fit and the perfect results in many times you're building something. If you build like 100 guns with the same setup, you should always get the same result. And that's only possible if you have tight tolerances.
Right, and that's what we're looking for at Umbrella, obviously. We put an Oka on the table because that's our production line gun. And we've always been struggling to find engines and other parts in general that reliably give us the same specifications each and every time. Because as you know better than me even, when you build a gun and something is off, you're always looking and you don't know and you're like wondering, why is this not working? So I think that this is a great foundation for you to understand what this motor is all about. We told you the key features. We could jump into questions. Ooh, that's a tricky question.
First, we are going to show you a typical length of a 480 motor, for example. We do have 88.7 millimeters here, and on our version you have even shorter. Due to this, it's possible to install the motor in a big variation of grips. That's not typical for all kind of brushless motors out there.
Yeah, that's true. We've actually seen a couple that are so big that you have to literally switch out the back plate in a sense and make massive adjustments.
A thing you have to check always if you're going to install a motor, obviously, is bevel to pinion gear placement as well, if your motor plate is possible to adjust your motor properly. Because there's a big variety of motor plates out there, and it might be possible that it's not going to perfectly fit you, and that's what you have to check.
Right, and I think the next thing that we should show them is the pinion gear one more time, because I think that's the most important. If you want to just say a couple words about the pinion gear.
The pinion gear, as I said, is in D-shaped configuration. It's very tough and hard, so to ensure it's not going to break under heavy load. Also, we have checked that the angles are as it should be and fit the most variety of gears. Obviously, it's not possible to fit all gears because everyone is making like their own deal, and yeah, that's not always perfect.
Right. But something that I found that this Excel set is pretty good sounding. So I think that depending on what gear set you use, Screech Tech, you could have really bad sounding guns, even if your shimming is good. But a motor does play a big role, and the way that pinions mesh with the bevel as well.
That's right.
And with the right hardness and the right shape, you get pretty good sounding motor. We're going to test this in a second here and let you guys listen in on how the gun sounds. But I think that this is something that the motor excels at. And lastly, the trigger contacts. It's something that stood out to me because we had other motors, even brushless motors, where the trigger contacts would not only just wear out over time, but sometimes they would come off the first time you're installing your motor cable. So how did you guys solve this? Because I thought that was quite clever.
Yeah, as we mentioned before, we went through a long development process, and obviously we were like, okay, we put it in this gun and this gun and this gun, and after so many installations, it's possible that something is going to break. And we found out the best solution for this is simply soldering the motor connections on the top and the lower part of the board to ensure a perfect fit and durable lifetime.
No.
Obviously it's not. Depending on the kind of setup you have different options, for example, like switching battery voltage. It's an easy change. Some MOSFETs even allows you to go from 50% to 100% to change RPM. But you don't always have like a second battery type with a different voltage or a MOSFET installed which is able to do something like this.
Absolutely agree.
Can do this.
Right. And it's really damn easy. We can show you footage of how to do it. It's just a switch.
That's right.
And if you're really clever, you put a little slit in your motor base plate and you use a little tool and you switch it on the field. So if the ref comes up to you and says, player, no full auto in buildings, your gun's too fast. Then first you're telling him you're on semi-auto and you're just a chat, and the second thing you can do is just switch it down to, what was it, 20,000? 27,000, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's like 30%-ish less,
yeah,
something like that.
It's depending on the voltage, of course,
right.
Which are you using, on the setup, of course. It's about 10,000 RPM, depending on battery and setup.
Right.
Without load.
But some of you might say there's other brushless motors that have a variable speed. And there is someone else out there that has just recently released theirs. It's not really as popular in Europe at the moment because it's kind of new and I don't think anyone even sells it, right?
Besides to get it, we do have like different things which are better in this. As we talked before, the length of the motor to fit in different grips, pinion gear style and all that stuff. Yeah,
it comes down to the whole mixture of features.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't really help you guys if you have one motor that's better at one thing.
That's right.
And that's what I love about this. You actually put in so much time to perfect it. So on to the next question. Yes. I think we can help you guys with that. We have an Oka Pro here, 11 inches, 310 millimeters with the Retro Arms shell. Our gear set, our compression system, which is, the gear set is 18:1, which is probably most important for you guys to know. We shaved off 2 on the release and 1 on the pickup side for the ones of you that are a little bit more technical, to get an understanding of what this build is. Other than that, we have a ported cylinder in there, but that doesn't really matter. So in terms of performance, we want to find out how does this sound, how does this perform in terms of RPS, and Sergey prepared a battery that is fully charged. That's a 2000 mAh 11-1 battery that has 94%. We did a little bit of shooting. It was at 99% just before that. Obviously, we're going to see some pretty insane like semi-auto experience. Many of you guys are interested in the full auto. I can understand that, obviously, it's pretty cool. But what makes a brushless motor so damn good is that you have pretty much instant torque. And right, yeah. It's insanely fast. So let me just, before we do anything else, just give them, the gun is cleared, everything's safe. Just give them, an idea of it. Obviously, this is not the fastest build. It's an SSG 18:1, it's short stroke, which does make it faster, but this is not going for like 70 RPS. This is a production line gun. It's supposed to be out there played with and not fall apart within like 2 days or something like that. I know you guys love that kind of stuff. That's not the type of test we're doing. Sergey prepared a voltmeter, I think.
Amp meter.
Amp meter, sorry. He's the pro. And he's gonna measure the actual amperage that we're drawing with this motor. So if I go quicker, it actually draws more. Let's try full auto. Is it normal that it stays constant? Is that...
It's depending on your build, of course, and the quality of the motor as well. It's depending on how tight the shimming and all that stuff. But usually if you get like a stock guns are always delivered with like 20 or 15 each amps fuses or something like that. But if you're going to like install a brushed motor, a normal brushed motor inside this build, the amp draw will be obviously increase a lot. That's why you usually need like a good MOSFET to take care of that, of all of that, and that's basically very, very low.
Yeah, that's really low. I mean, I've seen way worse. If you guys want to see like a 70 RPS build, that was gonna go up like for sure. Especially if you want to do that at high power. I mean, this goes up to 1.8 joules. I forgot what it said on the order, but I think this was a 1.8 joule gun. So yeah, 1.8 joules at the lowest that we had was like 9 or something in semi. So it was just one shot. So that's extremely efficient. Some of you guys may wonder, why does it matter? Efficiency, I don't care about the planet, kind of deal. This is not about trying to like become a green company or something like that. If you're playing out on the field and your gun draws like 70 amps per shot, you're not going to be playing for a long time. I mean, like, what's 2000 milliamps for 70 per shot?
It's nothing. Come on, everything gets hot, you can't touch the grip anymore, you have to change the battery all the time. It's not good for the battery because most of the batteries out there are not made for that amp draw and all that stuff, so it's in general it's better.
Right, absolutely. So how about we just switch up the build and we put in the trusty stock motor. Let's see how that does in comparison, just so you guys get an idea compared to a brushed motor. I hope that kind of answers all your questions and gives you guys an idea of what this motor is capable of and how it compares to other engines. We're going to leave you with a little bit of B-roll, and make sure you ask anything that you want to know in the comments. We'll do our best to answer them there.